Hello everybody and welcome to this very experimental game. And no, I'm not just talking about the experiment of fewer resources per base that we are currently looking at. I'm talking about the experiment of me messing around with technology that I don't really understand. Right now I am using the full version of xsplit. I have finally shelled out the money needed to actually get that program and can use all of the awesome audio codecs that they don't let you use until you shell out $60. And so hopefully my rich, pleasant voice is coming through crystal clear to all of you viewers, and you are enjoying the experience of listening to me talk right now. And there are a couple other things that I'm going to be messing around with in the settings and just generally experimenting with what works best. I have run a couple of tests, and this seems to be the best current audio format I can get, but I'll also be looking at the video, things that I can change, and just other stuff like that. So there might be a couple of minor differences as things go on in the upcoming cast. You'll also notice that I have turned off having the hit point bars on all the time. That's because I noticed things like MLG and the GSL and other organizations like that generally leave those off. It's good for them to be able to show people all of the action that's going on the screen. It's generally less important to be showing all of the hit points of all the individual units unless you're doing something that's very analytical, like the Day 9 Daily or something like that. So I'd be very happy to do it either way, depending on what people are interested in seeing. So just leave me a comment in the comment section or send me a PM on Team Liquid with what you prefer, and I will definitely take your recommendations into consideration. So, getting actually into the game now that that little just kind of droning and probing period is over, we have Frosty, the orange Protoss, in the top left, and TropicalBob, the purple Zerg, in the bottom right. This map is Crosspoint by Iron Man. It's rapidly becoming one of my favorite maps. There have been some discussion of maybe it's not quite balanced in Zerg versus Protoss, and ultimately I don't actually know. I'm not trying to sit down and definitely claim it is, definitely claim it is not, but I am trying to just find the best games of it that I can and bring them to you guys to cast. There's a very, very cute pylon that Frosty has planted down right here, just expanding his macro lead as he uses this probe to block the drone right there. So his Nexus is actually almost halfway done at this point, and TropicalBob has not had a chance to plant down an expansion, which is going to lead to a really big economic advantage for Frosty as the game goes on. Looking at the production tab, we see that the gateway has just been planted down and the forge is most of the way done. It should be convenient for Frosty to plant down a cannon right behind there with the places that the two buildings have been set up. He does have the probe right there, and yes, there it goes down. And he immediately rallies the probe in to block that one little space into his base for just a nice little wall, and he doesn't have to worry about any Zerglings getting into his base. Generally good stuff. First couple Zerglings are on the field, though, and have successfully killed off that irritating pylon and are now moving out across the map just to go and hunt around for any probes, like actually this one, that are hiding in corners waiting to plant down proxy pylons that will lead to aggression later. The Overlords are getting into position to go and scout around, and actually this one's moving in for a very early scout. I don't quite know what Bob thinks he's going to see right here, I have to admit, because it's only about the 5-minute mark in the game, and while it being a few resources per base map does mess with the timings a little bit, the rate at which your tech comes is still pretty much the same or later. It's very rare to get the tech earlier than you would in a ordinary resource game of StarCraft 2. So scouting around the Protoss base at only about 5 minutes is a little premature, I think. So as we can actually see right there, Cybernetics Core is only halfway done, so any tech structures beyond that just won't be around for a while. We do have these Zerglings continuing to patrol around. However, they do not... Oh, but their patrol path is actually leading them right next to this probe. So that's a very, very nice find by Bob. He will be able to get in there, take this guy down, and actually trap it in the corner for a successful kill, which obviously is a big, big deal. Well, actually, it's really only one probe. And assuming that he can sneak past these two Zerglings, Frosty's going to be able to just get another one out there when he wants to do his aggression later. Right now, this one Overlord scouting this one pylon to supply producing things, just kind of waving at one another, though the Overlord stopping right here might be a little bit bad because, as we see here, one Stalker just came out onto the field and is immediately starting to plug away at this one Overlord who is being suicided in for, I don't really know why. There's not too much to see here, and Yeah, I don't really know why he's sacrificing that and actually getting supply blocks just in order to see what his opponent is doing. Particularly since, too, he also has this other one floating around, so this is actually kind of bad. Losing 2 overlords this early and actually hitting a supply block is kind of noticeable mistake by Bob, so I do hope he's going to be able to recover from that as the game goes on. We do see an evolution chamber going down, obviously to provide some early upgrades or spore crawlers. Definitely good things against the standard Protoss Stargate play after the Forge Fast expand and a very aggressive 4th base coming down from TropicalBob. He wants to expand his economic lead as much as he can. However, this one probe has managed to sneak out of the base and is already planting down the proxy pylon, so this base might find itself under quite a bit of pressure as we also see 3 more gateways going down. And now there is something of a question of how this Stargate's going to be used, because we do see that there is a Void Ray on the way, and this one probe looks like it's going to be taken out by TropicalBob, which is definitely nice for him. But is he actually going to find that pylon? It's not looking like it. No, he does not find that pylon. I think he's assuming that he's safe because he killed that probe and he doesn't realize it already did the work it needed to. There's the proxy pylon just ready to go. However, it doesn't look like the attack's coming quite yet. Frosty taking a very, very, very bold 3rd expansion. Is actually, as we look at the units counting station, there's only 1 Zealot, 1 Stalker, 1 Void Ray, and 1 Sentry against 8 Zerglings, and with some good micro, I do think that the Zerglings will be able to at least kill the Sentry and maybe even threaten the Stalker as time goes on. And actually, as we see right here, the Zerglings getting a nice surround and immediately killing off that Sentry. However, a couple of good force fields do trap several of the Zerglings in between just the force fields, the Nexus, and the Pylon, and with that 1 Zealot coming in to help out, these Zerglings will be cleaned up without too much of a problem. However, there was definitely a bit of a mistake there to lose that Sentry that early. However, we do have a large group of Zealots warped in down here, and the 1 Void Rage is camping out over this watchtower. So if these attack together, which it does look like they are doing, they're going to be able to put a hell of a lot of pressure on this base. There's no queen even out, though actually now she just spawns right there to do anything about this. And this 1 Void Ray coming in, the Zealots starting to target down the queen, or actually being pulled back to the hatchery as this Void Ray starts to charge up. So it doesn't look like this base is going to be long for the world. However, there is a big Zergling counterattack and just not that many forces here. The Sentry's caught totally out of position, and really these cannons are the only thing that Frosty has going for him on this base. A big warp into Zealots will be able to keep it alive, but that was a kind of costly mistake to be getting too bold with. This 1 Void Ray just kind of poking around, and this base does fall. However, the aggression is continuing right here. This 1 Zealot does die, and does it look like this last Sentry is going to... not quite. Saved with only 4 hit points remaining, so that was really, really close. As we once again look at the units counting station, still a pretty small defending Protoss force, and there is a big attack moving through the middle of the map. It is 20 Zerglings and 12 Roaches against 7 Zealots, a Void Ray, and 2 Sentries. So Frosty is going to need to be warping in just as many units as he can to be able to defend his quite aggressive 3rd base, and that's exactly what he does. This is now a pretty intimidating force, and I'm not sure that slow Roaches are going to be able to deal with it. Oh, okay, I think those guys were sent out to take the towers. Okay. I was kind of confused what they were doing out there in the middle of the map, because they just got picked off quite easily, however. If they were sent out to take a look at the towers, that would be something that would make a lot of sense. It does warn him that this attack is incoming, and actually, the robotics facility's already gone down, looking at the production tower, robotics base. We are moving into Colossus tech kind of behind the scenes, but this attack is happening right now. 1 Sentry is very quickly picked off. Does look like a second one's going to go down, but some nice force fields, keeping the Roaches away from the units they really want to be shooting at. And trading Zealots for Roaches is pretty cost effective because you're trading all minerals for mostly minerals and some gas. So now all of these Roaches are going to be chased down, but a huge swell of reinforcements that has been rallied to the front. Now it's the Protoss' turn to back away. We're bringing in just a couple more Sentries, and this 1 Void Ray being very, very nice because it can just float over this units and force them to do something. They have to attack or they have to retreat. They can't just stay there. However, they are moving into the main right now. The Roaches actually getting a really, really good attack right here with a big swell of Zerglings moving in and getting a fantastic position on these sentries and stalkers, getting just a perfect surround. Everything taking a ton of damage for the Protoss player. And look at that total one-sided domination by Frosty, and just a couple of Zealots and 2 photon cannons being all that's left to defend. However, when you look at the kill counts on these photon cannons, they have done a good job defending already. 10 kills on this one in the front before it died, and 10 kills on the one in the back. So these Zerglings and Roaches have been thrown back. However, once again, this one very nice Void Ray, until there's some kind of anti-air like we see with the Spire coming up, this Void Ray can just kind of float around anywhere that there's not creep and start picking away at units that are not being committed to something. The first Colossus is on the field with the second one on the way. Thermal Lance has actually not been started yet. I do think that that would be something really, really worthwhile for the Protoss player to invest in. But instead, he is going for his 4th, planting down 3 cannons in order to defend that. I like that a lot. These Zerglings have been a major problem for him to deal with, the Zerglings and Roaches, so he's just trying to get as much static defense as he can to try to deal with that. Now, the 11 Mutalisks are on the way. Wow, that was a big, big chunk of gas that was consumed to make them, with Flyer Attacks 1 on the way. So things like this Void Ray hanging out here are probably not long for the world, just because the Mutalisks are going to be able to deal with them, and even Colossus, when there's a small number of Colossus and a large number of Mutalisks, they can deal with them very, very effectively. One probe getting a little bit of vision, only to be immediately eaten alive by a massive group of Zerglings. Perhaps not the best way to apply it, but it's not that big of a loss. Now, splitting up his army, actually, this is quite clever. He's sending the Mutalisks one way and the Roaches and Zerglings some way else to just try to split up the Protoss Deathball as much as he can. And right now, this is a critical engagement. The Protoss units are backing up as much as they can, trying to get in range of these static defenses and warped-in reinforcements. However, one Stalker goes down immediately, and the second one looks like it's going to be targeted down as well, though these Mutalisks are taking a ton of damage from the static defenses and Stalkers, so that force is thrown back. When we look at the upgrades, it's still +1 weapons only for the Protoss, while it's 1-0 for the Zerglings. So Zerglings are still being two-shotted, and it could be seen how effectively the Zealots were able to deal with them. Another big engagement going on in the middle. The Mutalisks once again swooping in to kill this Colossus as fast as they can. However, without microing these Roaches at all, the Zealots were able to just march right in and kill them. For those who don't know, one-on-one with no micro, a Zealot will kill a Roach. So it's only when the Roaches have speed and are able to kite away and micro that they're very effective. Speaking of micro, right there was a fantastic piece of micro. When there was nothing but the Zealots left in the field, TropicalBob was able to just micro his Zerglings away and let the Mutalisks kill off all those Zealots instead of having to deal with the melee units with his own melee units. Just some nice optimal usage of his micro right there. Another Colossus joining the fray. We do have a Twilight Council almost done, and a couple of Phoenix, actually, that have come onto the field. Just something to try to deal directly with these Mutalisks, and he does need something to deal with them indeed, because they are swooping in, continuing to pick off Stalkers, preventing the Stalkers from reaching that critical number where big blinks underneath the Mutalisks will do a lot of damage. However, despite losing that one Colossus, the Zealots and Stalker reinforcements have been able to force away this attack yet again. Now we see the Zerg player continuing his very aggressive style of expanding, double expanding in fact. He's using his very mobile force to defend those, and continuing to put pressure on his opponents so that they might not even be attacked at all. As we see right here, just a small group of 6 Mutalisks swooping right in to pick off this critical robotics facility, which is where all of the Colossus of Frosty have been coming from. And really, without the Colossus on the field, it's going to be very, very hard for him to deal with the huge Zergling numbers. 44 Zerglings that we see on the way, and the +1 armor is coming in too, so until the Protoss player gets +2 ground weapons, it's going to be very difficult for Zealots to deal with the Zerglings as efficiently. And there's now a big attack going on here, but a huge warping of Zealots. In order to defend that, we're going to have to see, are these static defenses and Zealots capable of dealing with this massive Zergling attack? And it's actually starting to look like they are. That's extremely impressive. I would not have called that immediately, but look at that. 12 kills on this photon cannon, 12 kills on the one in the back as well. It seems to be that the photon cannons are being very nice to each other. They're sharing the number of kills that they get. However, this base is going to be denied The number of Zerglings and Mutalisks just far, far too great. And these units were caught out of position, and yeah, Frosty just has to sacrifice this base, which is kind of unfortunate. It puts him in a really awkward position. His opponent is on 6 bases, and he is only on 3. So while each base is worth individually less in a fewer resources per base game, and you generally want to expand more, when your opponent has twice as many bases as you, you're kind of hurting no matter what variant of StarCraft you're playing. And as we see right here, just some more static defenses going down. Like that decision a lot. Static defense is very valuable in fewer resource per base game. But a huge Zergling attack coming right in. And these Zealots are caught horribly out of position. Most of them behind the Stalkers until that one big blink back where they were not doing anything to help with this attack. And the Mutalisks are picking away at these Stalkers. And when you have a large group of Mutalisks, they can just straight up engage Stalkers and win. However, with this huge warp-in of Stalkers we see right here and the Photon Cannons, and in fact these reinforcements coming in from the back that were the remains of that original attack group, these Mutalisks take huge casualties and are forced away with several of them at extremely low health, one literally at a single hit point as it tried to escape. Looking at the units counting station real quick, 47 Zerglings and 10 Mutalisks. And it's 12 Stalkers and 1 Phoenix. So Frosty is continuing to just have trouble building up the army that he needs. He is, however, investing in a ton of static defense and a big warping of Zealots to try to deal with this massive number of Zerglings. And that was a very interesting blink, totally juking out both me and the Zerglings that were moving into attack there, blinking right in among the Zealots. And that was actually quite clever as I think about it, because the Zealots will only be able to deal their damage if the Zerglings are right in there. So making sure that the Zerglings are attacking as many as possible is a great decision. This Colossus being focused down again, just great play by TropicalBob, trying to make sure that the Protoss cannot build up to the death ball that will let him just completely crush one of his opponent's bases. However, we do see that Frosty has expanded to this left-hand side and is using it as a base of operation to send in a big piece of Zealot harass, just a huge number, 7 Zealots marching right in, but that is a very large group of Zerglings that are moving in to intercept, along with a couple of Mutalisks and the static defenses that were already there. That group gets cleaned up pretty easily, unfortunately. So TropicalBob is looking like he's in a pretty dominating position. He's just been able to move back and forth quite easily and pick off his opponent's bases, though that might be coming to a halt, because as we see, the Templar Archives is on the way. And if there is one unit, or actually 2 units even, that are really good against Mutalisk Zergling, it's the Archon and the High Templar. High Templar, obviously, for Psionic Storm, you can just throw down blanket storms that completely destroy Zerglings and do a lot of damage against Mutalisks. But wait, I'll be back to that in a moment. A huge Zergling run by straight into the main as the Colossus is racing back as fast as it can. Did he ever even get range? No, he still doesn't have range. A huge blunder by Frosty. I didn't even notice that. So he's still trying to deal with these Zerglings from just as close as is possible, and it doesn't look like that one robotics facility goes down again. Oh no, just trying to limit the AoE of the Protoss player as much as possible, though it did cost him quite a bit. As we look at the units counting station, the Mutalisk numbers have been significantly reduced, though his reinforcements and just the amount of money he's able to get from having all of these bases is starting to overwhelm the Protoss player, though we do see the first High Templar on the field. Storm is not done, in fact not even on the way, so he's just going for the Archons. And yes, the Archons are the other thing that's very good at dealing with Mutalisks and Zerglings, because both of those units tend to clump up, and the AoE damage of the Archon plus the bonus to biological that they get can absolutely mutilate the Mutalisks and Zerglings right there. And this one base finds itself under attack, and actually we're moving into a base race situation right here as we see the Zerg player splitting up his forces to try to get in and deal with this base, as the Protoss player is marching right in, killing off the 6th. Though this is actually looking a little bit better for TropicalBob. Mutalisks and Zerglings are very good units for doing base race type situations, just because they're so fast. They can swoop right in, deny bases, and leave as soon as any kind of defense is being organized. And in fact, once they have done the damage they want to, and there's something of a defense force, as we see right here in the mostly mined out natural of Frosty, they can just pull right back, start defending, which is what they're doing right now. A big group of zealots moving through the middle, and that's kind of unfortunate. They are in a very precarious position, getting surrounded by the Zerglings and just picked off by the Mutalisks. If he could have joined them together with this army, that would have been much more effective, but unfortunately just a little bit of miscontrol, and that one Colossus getting picked down so fast. Actually, the Zerglings got beneath it. For those who don't know, Colossus can actually stand on top of other units that I think aren't massive, though maybe even massive ones as well. So if you have Zerglings run underneath it and start attacking, you can have like 20 Zerglings attacking at once. So you really need to keep those Zerglings away from your Colossus. And right now, this Mutalisk flock is getting very intimidating. That's just, wow, that's a huge number. How many? 26 on the field. And they magic box the Archon, so the splash damage is just not doing as much. Though that's a pretty nice group of reinforcing Stalkers. So it might be possible for Frosty to make something happen here, but that is a lot of Zerglings that are getting just in and among the Stalkers. And Zergling against Stalker is a pretty good trade for the Zerg player. And as these Mutalisks are continuing to advance, picking off as many Stalkers as they can while they're retreating, it's looking really grim for our Protoss player. Unfortunately, it's just 63 supply against 151, and there we have it. That is the GG. Replay complete. Alrighty. Well, thanks everybody for watching. I hope that you all enjoyed this game as much as I did. Thank you very much to TropicalBob for sending it my way. It was very nice of him to contribute it, and he said that it was a fantastic game, and I definitely have to agree with him. I had a lot of fun casting it and bringing it to all of you. So, for those who are interested in just fewer resources per base maps in general, check out the Breadth of Gameplay thread on Team Liquid. It has some really awesome stuff to talk about, like what makes StarCraft fun and how can we go about making StarCraft 2 even more fun than it already is. And I, unfortunately, I'm going to have to do something I didn't really want to do, and I'm going to have to ask you folks for help. I'm trying to get the minimum number of subscribers and views to where I can start uploading videos in just a single chunk instead of having to split them into 15-minute segments, which is stupid. And so anybody who has liked these casts, anybody who has enjoyed the work that I have been doing here and also the work I've been doing with Pull, definitely subscribe. It doesn't just help me, it helps all you guys get the best games and not have to be constantly flipping through the stupid part 1, part 2 thing that I unfortunately have to do. So, thank you everybody for watching. Thanks especially to everybody who's already subscribed. You guys rock, and you're the reason that I continue doing this, and it's just so awesome to have all of you guys making comments and being just hugely supportive. I really appreciate it. And this is Senex. Thank you all again, and I will see you next time.